はい、改めて、こんばんは、タージです。グーテンタージ、タージ、タージにしゃんよ。先ほどに引き続き、今度はスタンリーパラブルウルトラデラックスをやっていきます。はい、どういうゲームかよくわかってません。はい。視野角は広く、カメラ感度は低く。そして、これ変えられたんだ。まあ、いっか、このままで。はい、っていうとこでやっていきましょう。かね。ちょっとだけ待って。今、急いでお風呂から出てきたわ。っていうとこです。これはどういうゲームなの？そもそも。まずね、本当によく分かってない状況で今ここまで来てんで。なんか、分かりやすく。やってみればいいか。なんか映ってるのはいいな、これ。さあ、では、よろしくお願いします。クリックするとスキップします。これはスタンリーという名の男の物語。スタンリーは大きなビルの会社で従業員番号427として働いていました。従業員番号427の仕事は至って単純。427番の部屋でデスクに向かいキーボードのボタンを押すだけです。ゲーム音とか大丈夫ちょっと大きい。あと指令はどのボタンどれぐらいの長さを押せばいいかを教えてくれるので。従業員427何ヶ月も何年もこの作業を日々繰り返していました。他の人たちにとっては魂が引き裂かれるようなかもしれません。なんかもう、早い。スタンリーは幸せです。We're happy.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
何が起きた？これ動ける。スタンリーって聞くと、スタンリーを思い出す。思うままに動きていい。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
感度がいいわ。こんなの。カメラ感度をゼロにしたらどうなんだ？このくらいでいい。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
いや、まっすぐ行くわ。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
何年もクビにならなかったのが不思議で。ここ。いいな。
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
という夢を見たんだった。神はいそう。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
まことさん。また入れとくか。ちょっと待って、どこだっけ。 これ眠いときは寝た方がいいよ。何あれで終わりなの？第一部完みたいな感じ。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes. This room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
入んないんだな。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
これが面白いね。これだけど、あれもうこれ C 確定？あ、帰れない。Do not jump from the car. あ、動
Look,
く動く。
Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley.
Hi. Hello. Hello. Huh? 42なの。
Oh, Stanley, is that you?
Yes,
Hold
yes.
on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
どれやめた
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving life? They want to commit their life to you. I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
はい。
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
私死ぬのさっき死んだよ一回。427。
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. Down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions, and down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again and then again, and again,
Again.
over and over, wishing beyond
Over,
hope
over.
that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
9。はい。
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be?
戻ってき
In
た。
reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
寝る。
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop.
いや、
Here,
やってしないので
watch
す。
this.
こちらをご覧
Stanley,
くださ
the
い。
next time the screen asks you to
押してはい
push
け
a
ませんよ。
button, do not do it.
マジで。押すわ。どうすんのこれ押しちゃいけない。いや、限界だ。押せね
You see?
Ah.
Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's
戻ってきた。
electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
死んでください。
Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button.
え
And I
どうし
tried.
ええ死んだえ死んだっぽいわ。
All of his co-workers were gone.
戻ってきた
What
わ。
could it mean?
ちょっと今度は普通に行ってみ
Stanley
よう。
decided to go to the meeting
会議室に
room.
行ってみよう。
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
会議室は左だ。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
やりました。はい、会議室です。
Yet there was not a single
誰もい
person
ない。
here either. Feeling a wave of
新刊の
disbelief,
波が押し寄
Stanley
せる中、
decided to go up to his boss's office,
上の階に
hoping
あ
he
る
might
上司のオ
find
フ
an
ィス。
answer there.
はい。ちょっと従っていこう。下行けんだな。こ
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
れ下
office.
行ったら帰れんのかなえ帰るわ。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had
みんな消えて
vanished.
しまった。なんだこ
His
の
boss
構
would
造。
think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself,
なんだ
maybe I am
自分を狂って
crazy.
しまったのか。
All of my
そうだな。
co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a
ループしてん
single
だけど。
moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations.
はい。
For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked
あ
down?
本
Why
当だ。
did doors close automatically behind
確かに。
him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
そう
Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange.
信
This
じてるわ
can't
け
be
な
real.
い。
And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
夢だ。
He yelled.
Dreaming.
This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to
夢だ。
have finally
夢
found an
だけど
answer,
夢じゃ
an
なかった。
explanation.
夢
His
だ。
co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined
空を
himself
飛ぶ。
flying and began to
浮かぶの。
gently float above the ground. Then he
Oh.
imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun,
Oh.
and Stanley
宇宙。
marveled that he had still not woken up.
マジで。
How was he
すげえ。
remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain beyond a doubt that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Okay. おはよう。
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Goodbye. その程度だったっていう。あ、死んじまったわ。としてたな今。
All of his co-workers were gone.
今度こそ真面目に行こう。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
帰ろう
memo.
と思ったのに帰れなかった。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
ほう。お、ボスっていねえ、いい。
Stepping into the manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Whoa. Wow. これ、行っていい？なんか大丈夫だ。怖っ。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Go.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
なんだっけ、なんかそう、プロフェッサー X が X ウォッチのところわかるのかな？わかる人いるかな？よし。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen. And Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
この正面でこっちだ。427のどんか行こう。427。あそこだ。Shit.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
何をするんだ？何をするんだ？はい。こう。何をすればいいんだ？ 色ついてるけど何なんだこれ。はほうこの下ちょっと行きたい感もある。あ、番号あるじゃん。1、2、まあどこだ。上にもなんかある。登れない。暗い。3番。あそこ5番だったよね。お、あった。何番だこの上。4番多分この辺にあるんだろう。4番はどこ？ 4 どこ？これこうでしょ。やっぱあの上？あ、登れんな、あそこ。こっから違うね。ここが開かないと登れないんですよ。暗いんですよ。ん？暗い。まあいいや。行こう。わからん。ここ。特に大丈夫ですか？行こう。お、視点パ
And
ワ
when
ー。
at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible
全て終わら
place
せる。オフ
and
だ。
to everything it stood for.
おう。んで、そして、
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes.
お、勝
He
った
had won. He had
Oh.
defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go.
あ、外への
No longer would
道が
anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be
やったか入
his.
れる。
And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
出るです。え？
Stanley
出れた。
felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Happy。お？なんか、ベストズゲームっていう。あ、ちゃんと指示通りにしたかったら、なんか一番いいっていう感じになった。
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were.
熟知し
Just a
ました。
matter of time.
時間の問題だったよ。私は全てを知ってる。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
上に行こ
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his
Joshi.
boss's
う。
office.
ジョージ
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer
ルート同じだね。
amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
さっきこっち行ったけど、こっち行ってみよう。暗っ。暗っ。ちょっと待って。暗い、暗い、暗い。マジ暗い。どっか行けんの？行き止まり？行き止まりっぽいの。じゃあ結局こっち行かなきゃいけないの。バンバン。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word Escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
私死ぬの。
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
入りましょう。
But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. Nope, still on board with death.
いや、まだ死はすぐそばに。優柔不断だな。行ってみよっか。行ってみよう。
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
帰ろう。ん？帰るわ。これ帰れんのかな？セリフなんか出てくるかな？帰れんな。まあもうここまで来たら死ぬしかない。行きまーす。スタンリー、行きまーす。おあ、なんか何事もなーく。あ、落ちてる。こっち。あ、生きてる。
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
さらばだ。
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
ああ生きてんじゃん。Stanley Bravo.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
廊下。テンポが重要で、この廊下を動かしたり変更したりして、プレイヤーがいいタイミングで2つのドアへたどり着くようにしています。おう。なんかこういう裏話いいね。飛ぶ棚。何こんなのあったの？オフィスのパソコン。ソリティアとかあるよ。クレジットじゃん。エンディングじゃん。あ、ボタンの音。はい。すいません、ちょっと失礼しました。でてか、ゲーム音ちゃんと聞こえてた今からだけど。聞こえてるか大丈夫か？でかかったりとか大丈夫だった？あんま気にしなかった。オフィス。風景画。なんか、まあ、とりあえず行ってみようか。4314-6。オフィス。メンテナンスルーム。ここは何なの？何なのここ。ナレーターのメール。2回目の予告の後、ナレーターへの質問メールを募集しました。当初これを宣伝材料にしようと企画していましたが、完璧な使い道を見つけられませんでした。一部メール。from 音。タンベアを from Anthony W。ラウンジの初期バージョンです。アパートメントタイム。全バージョンではアパートのエンディングへつながる選択肢で電話に出るまでの時間が15秒与えられていました。電話に出ないと違うエンディングになります。貨物リフト。会議室。レバー。ベンディング、なんかよくわかんねえぞ。エスケープメニュー。これどこまで？フリーダムエンドです。モニタールームエレベーター。カウントダウンルーム。オン、オフ。なんだ
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
スイッチ。オフ。
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the programming before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
ぐちゃって音した。ぐちゃって音した。っていう夢を見たのだった。何もあれなくなった。電話？Hello?
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
誰
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Oh.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now, in order to get back, he needed to go, from here, it's, left. Oh, no. It's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh, dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Oh, 乗れない？
No, this isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
マジで、あ、戻っちゃった。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ここだけは閉められる。閉められる。諦めたナレーション。
When Stanley... Wait.
What? ドア閉めていったら。
No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure.
Whoa.
Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
どこ行こうか。ここだ。 繋がってんじゃん。帰れんのかな。帰ってきた。
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again. But it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Wait. Nani? Ah. Eh? ここ行ってるよなんか。開かない？開かない。戻ろう。
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
どこ行けばいいの？ああ、また違うとこ来た。何ここ。
Now this, well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct?
そうだよ。
Do you remember, Stanley?
覚えてないよ。
Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? No, I'm down. We're living it up to the line from now on.
私はもういいよって言って。じゃあ従っていくしかないのか。アドベンチャーライン。
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Nope. Here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office in fact the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
なんだどこまで行くんだとして。
Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern. Wait, what? We're back at the office?
戻ってきたよ。
No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
あ、これ最初のとこじゃん。戻ってきたよ。完璧に戻ってきたよ。あ、こっちだけどさっき違うルートだ。これもう一回さっきのルート、いや、どうしますからいけないのか。さっきこっちから行くのか。お、なんかすげえ。こっから見た世界ってのがちげえ。
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Well, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Oh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
そこどこ行くの？この方向性は。あ、こっち。OK。
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it. Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it. We should be fine.
ラインくん、どこ行っちゃったの？じゃな。
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
よし、行こう。混乱エンド。
Hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really... No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So.
Okay.
I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
ああ強制的に戻されたわ。はいはいはい。
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation. We are confirming your shipment of 1,327 cardboard.
誰しもいなくなった。おニューコンテンツ。
Oh,
新
new
コンテ
content?
ンツ。
What does that mean, new content?
おこれなんかやめ時がわかんないんだけど。お楽しい、こういうの好き。ガタンガタンガタンガトンガタンガトンガタンガトンガタンガトン。
Hello, and thank
Hello.
you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
ほ
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
うお新コンテンツ。
Please
もう来たぞ。
step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the
行くぞ。
Stanley Parable Ultra
あ、いた。
Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new
めちゃんこわくわ
Ultra
くだよ。
Deluxe content.
行くぜ。
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Let's go. 動かないんだけど。
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we
動かないんだ。
should we be moving somewhere or oh,
Ah,
there we
wait,
go.
wait, wait, wait.
All right, finally, at
Oh,
long
新コン
last,
テンツ
it's
だ。
on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's
Oh.
do it.
行ったろ
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if them... Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right. All right, let's see.
ジャンプ
It's
サーキュー。
the jump circle.
行ってみよう。おジャンプやったジャンプできるわ。ぴょんぴょんぴょんニューコンテンツ。ゼロになったらどうなの。ジャンプできない。ポン。ジャンプできなくなったよ。
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good.
まだある。
Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
お Thank you for enjoying
That's
the new
it?
content.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley?
What
This
is that?
is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to
thinking
make an
jump like it.
easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
どうかな。ああ、戻った。ん？お？
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you some... Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise?
見るわ。
Never mind, you're not a dog.
いや、見るよ、そんな。あ。行かないと短くて行く。
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? But it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little
小さな秘
secret.
密です。うわ、いいな。
Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
あ、死んでるポケモンだ。解雇中じゃん。
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim. It was Persona 3. It was all of them. And now, it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
お、開いた。オリジナル。9じゃん。
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories. These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
お、行ってみよ
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Funny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
かわいそうに。これグッドじゃん。
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
なんかショック受けてるわ。かわいそうに。次のレビュー。
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
あ、本当だ。
And here it is. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are, or were, or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait, how do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able to leave? Please, I'll take any option at all. I'm asking you to work with me
これ
here.
押してもいい
We need a door. We need a door of some kind. I can work with any kind of door as long as it can open and lead from one room to another. I'm going to step away for
これ
just
ス
a
キップしていい
moment,
の
and I'm going to try to find us a door.
あ
I don't know how exactly to remove a door and place it in a different wall, but I will
どう
find a
どうする
way,
押
I
す
promise. You just need to not do anything. Don't press the skip button. Please, please, please do not press the skip button. Just wait here for me, and don't
Right,
press
just
the
not
skip
there.
button. Got it?
よし
Good.
よ
I'll be right back.
おちょっと待ってよじゃあ来るかドア来るかこれスキップ押しちゃっていい押さないでも俺積まないんじゃねもうちょっと待ってみようもうちょっと待ってみようそしてね1時に近づいてるからこれのループが終わったらかな来ないなこれスキップ押す来ないねプチ
Stanley, Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again.
相当長く
Stanley,
されたな
I think it's
1週
been a
間
week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all...
Huh?
Oh, hello.
Ah,
It's
you
you.
didn't do that.
You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a
1年
year.
経って
Have you
る
ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you.
うん
To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced.
もう一回あ、生きてるいねえいなくなっちゃった。これもカレー押してるわ。あ、いなくなっちゃった。慣れた、消えたわ。慣れたちょっといなくなっちゃったよ。じゃあもう一回押すか。ピーピー。ん何あ、時計が落ちてる。もう止まってるわ。何どんどん押すよ。
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a
うる
pathetic...
せえ。あ
The end is never the end, 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 end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is
これ
never
ルー
the
プされ
end,
てる
is
わ
never
一
the
生。
end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the
じゃあな。
end, is
あ。生きてはいた。あ、壊れた。崩壊してるわ。柵もなくなってるし。何が起きるのかな。お、日の光が出てる。けど登れんの。登れんな。もうどんどん行こう。あ、自然。草木が。自然が。どこまで行く？あれ枯れた？せっかく静止をしてたのに。次は？何が起きてんのこの世界に。あ、壊れた。ボタンを押しすぎて壊れた。あ、もうこれ押せない？ここもなんか斜めってない？あ、こっちがどうなったの？この辺、あ、こうなったのか。バッカーしてる。何が起きた？何にもないじゃん。世界終焉したわ。よし、じゃあ行こうか。新しい世界へ。世界はこんなにも広いんだ。手がない。で、誰もいない。誠さんだけがいた。戻ってきた。
the meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
何これ？あ、これがニューコンテンツ。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
だけど同じになってるね、また。
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
ナレーターに話をさせようとしない。開かないじゃんとして。あれ、しゃがんでた。
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
あ、いたいた。やっと開いた。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
こっち行ってみよう。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. did he have the strength to find out?
また同じルートなのかな。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go. Turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and
Employee, you're in now.
Just you being blown to pieces. Would you cling desperately to your frail life? Or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment you fade in until the moment I say happily ever up.
バン。そして、おはようございます。じゃあ今日はこの辺で爆破と落ちっていうところでやめていきましょう。はい。あ、集中をまた消してない。よいしょよいしょよいしょよいしょ。はい、ということで、これ結構まだいろいろありそうだね。ちょっと待って、くしゃみ入れと。はい、これやってるとどんな感じなの？なんか、あれだよね、設定的なとことかなんか知りたいよね、いろいろと。っていう、まあ、爆発落ちでした。で、はい、今日はじゃあこれで終了します。で、明日が、デミシューとコープスやって、明後日思い出しました。確か明後日ソープスクールやります。これで終わりのはず。ラストソープスクール。14日にやります。ということで、これで4回目のソープスクール、ついにエンディングとなる予定ですので、お楽しみいただければと思います。では、こちらで終了します。1日2日やるの久しぶりだった。楽しかった。では、おやすみなさい。ありがとうございました。おつたじ、バイバイ。